Hi. In this tutorial, I will discuss the annual process of entering your service and scholarly activity data into the digital measures system through review of the following 5 topics. First, we're going to review the rules of all digital measures screens. Second, why it is important for PNWU staff and faculty to record their activities in digital measures. Third, we're going to review the service screens within digital measures and give examples of the types of service activities that should be entered in them. 4, we're going to review the scholarship screens within digital measures and also give examples of the types of scholarship activities that should be entered in them. And 5, we're going to review the resume functionality within digital measures and review the screens that help to populate your resume. So let's get started. First, we're going to start by reviewing the rules within all digital measures screens. So you should be already logged into your digital measures screen, and when you log in, you will be taken to this main menu. Now, you may not have access to all of the screens that you see listed in my menu, but the ones that are important to you will be listed in your main menu. There you will see, first of all, a link to your PNWU Digital Measures training resources. If you click on that link, it's going to open our PNWU Digital Measures webpage. And here you will find the contact information for myself, so where you can give me a call or send me an email if you have a question or an issue within digital measures. It also has the link to the actual website, so if you need to get there. And additionally, there will be extra training resources such as this recording, which will be available under faculty and or staff and supervisor training resources. So once this recording is completed, I will post a link here to this recording. Okay, so let's go back to our main menu. Also on your main menu, you will see what I call categories. So there are screen categories within your main menu. Demographic employment information is a category, and all of the screens underneath those belong in that category. So CV, resume, general information, these are screens that are related to your CV and resume. Teaching, these are all screens that are related to teaching. Scholarship, research, and dissemination, these are all screens that are related to the scholarship. Service, again, screens that are related to service. And evaluation, so these are screens that are related to your evaluation process. Additionally, we have the National Science Foundation proposal requirement, which is located here. So when you're taking a look at this main menu, you always have on your left side what I call the blue bar. And the blue bar, for most of you, will contain manager activities and run custom reports. And some of you may have some additional options here if you're a supervisor or a department chair. But for most people, manager activities and run custom reports are the 2 activities that you should see on your blue bar. Regardless of what screen you are in digital measures, that blue bar never disappears. And so, even if you're entering an activity, you can always click on the blue bar to go directly back to your main menu screen, this menu here. And so I'll kind of show you how that works. So what we're going to do is I'm going to actually just go into a screen of mine. So I'm going to go into the awards and honors screen. So I'm in what I call the sub menu. So any awards and honors will be listed individually in this sub menu that I enter. So if I entered another award or honor activity, I would have 2 in this sub menu. But right now I have 1 in here. But regardless of the fact that I'm in this sub menu, all I have to do to go back to my manage activities is click on that manager activities blue bar, and that takes me back to this main menu. Now I can go back in there. I can also get to it by clicking on this return to main menu button. So that also will take me back to that main menu. Okay, and then I'm going to go back in here again. So within a activities submenu, you have add a new item and the delete button. as well as the search option. So let's say, well, actually, I'm going to return back to the main menu because I also want to show you. You also have the search option right here. So if I typed in SGA, which I know is in one of my activities, and I click the search button, it will actually search the inside contents of your activity. So it's going to search all throughout any of the activities that you have entered, looking for those letters. And I happen to know, so I brought this one up, and if I open it up, if I just click on edit to open it, see, sponsored by SGA. So it found that activity. So you can search for things that are hidden deep inside of the activities that you have that you've entered, if you need to locate something particularly. Okay, so that's how your search button works, and it works that way within your submenus and then also within that main menu. So I'm going to go back into that awards and honors submenu. So if I want to add a new item, I just click the button add a new item, and then I'm just going to type in, so I'm going to do another test 2. I'm just giving it a test 2 for the award name. And as you can see in this screen, there are a couple of fields that have a red asterisk. The legend down here tells you what that red asterisk means. The red asterisk means that those fields are required. And what we mean by required is that in order for you to be able to save this activity, you have to have at least put data into the fields with the red asterisks. Additionally, you also always have to have a date in your activity, because all of the activities that we do, we need to be able to pull the activity by a date. So it is mandatory that you put in at least a month and a year for any activity that you populate. Now keep in mind, sometimes you will see the red asterisks on the date fields, sometimes you won't. But regardless of whether there's a red asterisk or not, you have to have at least a month and a year in one of the date fields. Some of the activities that you may enter, some of the screens may have multiple date fields, and you only need to have a month and a year in at least one of those multiple date fields in order to save that activity. So just keep that in mind as you're moving forward. So I'm going to put in this test organization here because I have to populate that. Now I'm going to purposefully leave category blank because I want to show you what that looks like without what's going to happen if I don't populate that. So I'm just going to put in a date and a year here, and I'm going to try to save this. So if I hit save and return, it's going to hopefully it will save this activity and take me back to that sub menu. So I'm going to try to do that, but again, because I didn't fill out category, which is a required field, it tells me please complete all required fields. So then I just have to go in and give it a category, and then I can click save and return. Now additionally, I can also click, if I know that I need to add another award or honor, I could also click save add another. And what that would do is it would save it, and then it would open up another blank screen for me to enter a second activity. If I click on the return and cancel button, then it's not going to save this activity. It just cancels everything that I just put in, and it's going to return me back to the sub menu. If I click return to main menu, it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to leave this screen? Because I've put data in here, and it's not going to save it unless I click save and return. So if I'm clicking on return to main menu, we're not saving. So it's double checking with me, are you sure you want to do that? But I'm going to go ahead and click save and return, and now it's saved this test 2 that I added. So now I have 2 activities here. Now right now when I look at this delete button up here at the top, I don't have the ability to delete. If I click on there, nothing happens, and it's kind of grayed out. So in order to delete something, then I just need to check that box. Once I check the box next to the item that I want to delete, then the delete button becomes prominent and I have the ability to click on it. I can also delete multiple items. So if I wanted to click on both of those and get rid of both of them, I can. Right now I'm just going to delete that one, and I'm going to click, oops, wrong one, I was going to delete this one. There we go. And then I'm going to click delete. And it asks me, am I sure I want to delete this record? And I say okay. And then it deletes the record for me. Now, additionally, you also have the ability when you create an activity to make a copy of that activity. So let's say that the award or honor that I received this year or last year, I received it the previous year as well. So I could actually click copy, and I could change the year to the 2014, click save and return, and now I have a copy of both of those awards for each year that I received them. Okay. Additionally, if there was something else I realized, oh, I need to change something else about that award, I can click in that edit button to reopen the activity and change any fields that I need to there. And if I hit return and cancel, then it just returns it back to the submenu without making any saving or changing. Okay? All right. So I think we've gone through all of the main rules, except the only other one that I want to talk about is the timeout setting within digital measures. So in digital measures, there is a 45-minute screen timeout, which means that if you're putting in an activity, so if I'm clicking edit and I open up this activity, and let's say I was going to make some changes to this activity, but I get busy, a phone rings, so I walk away from my computer and I answer the phone, and then somebody comes to my desk and asks me a couple questions. Meanwhile, I still have this screen open. After 45 minutes, it's not going to save what I have in here anymore. So, you know, if you previously saved it, whatever you previously saved it to is going to stay that way. But if you've made any changes, it's going to time out and it's not going to save those changes. So I always suggest if you've made any changes or you've created a screen, make sure that you at least finish up the changes that you need to make in those required fields and click save really quick. You know, even if that means maybe you have to put somebody on hold for just a second, finish filling that out, save it, and then close the screen so that you don't lose the work that you've already done. Just keep in mind, like I said, it's a 45-minute timeout, and that same thing applies if you're creating a brand new record. Some of the screens have several fields, and what I always suggest is that you go through those screens and at least complete the required fields, save that record, then go back into the screen in edit mode, and you can add in any additional information that you would like to. That way you know for sure that you've at least saved the required elements of that record, and you're not going to lose that record. Okay? All right, so I think we just went through all of the requirements. The only other thing is, with your blue bar, if you click on Run Custom Reports, this is where you will be running reports that you need. And you will only have in this drop-down reports that are important for you. So you're not going to have this huge list. Many of you may just have your performance appraisal, employee and supervisor report, and possibly resume report. That may be the only reports that you have available to you right now. As we add additional reports, those menu options will change. Resume is one that you definitely will want to take a look at. It's really easy to pull. You just click on that resume, and then you're going to place your start date at, I just would change the year to be the earliest year of any of the activities that you have put into digital measures. So if you, for instance, if you put in your education, let's say, you know, maybe you finished high school in 1989 or something, then I would make sure that you change your year to say 1989 so that it will grab that education record that goes back that far. And then you can leave the end date. It always will populate to the last day of the current year. That's really not that important. As long as you have your start date set at the earliest date of any activity that's in digital measures, it's going to capture everything between those two dates that you have entered so far and populate your resume. Now, some people may not want to go back that far. And so you're welcome to change those dates to just pull activities that you want from a certain time period, maybe just your last 10 years, and that's fine too. It's totally up to you. Another thing too, though, another way to maybe edit some things is you can pull this report in Word format and still manually go in and delete any activities that you feel like aren't maybe pertinent to the type of resume that you're trying to create. Some people like to create resumes that are focused in certain areas, whether that's professional work or maybe healthcare, and they may want to remove any work history or whatever that's maybe not healthcare related, so that they're just showing, their activities related to healthcare, and that's absolutely fine. Like I said, you can go in and manually remove those items in MS Word and then save a copy. For most of you, you will not have to deal with step 3 unless you are a supervisor or a department chair. You won't have this select whom to include step. But for those of you who are a department chair or a supervisor, you have the ability to pull reports for not just yourself, but also the people that you supervise. And so you would click on that click here icon, and you would choose either individual. And so if you're just trying to print out your own report, you would just choose yourself and then click the save button at the very end. If, for instance, you wanted to print out a report for your entire department, you can actually choose department. You won't see all of these department listings. You'll only see the departments that you manage. So for most of you, that's going to be just one department. There may be a couple people that have multiple departments that they oversee. And so then you have the ability to choose one of those departments or all of those departments if you want to pull a report that reflects all of the data for those departments. But I'm going to stay with the individual selection so I can just show you what the resume would look like. Then in step 4, it's asking you to select the file format. Well, the default is Microsoft Word, so that you have the ability to go in and edit your resume further. But if you want to, you can also print it out in Adobe PDF or as an HTML document. And then selecting the page size, basically you just want to keep this at letter. A4 is more international paper size. And then just go ahead and click the Build Report button. And it may prompt you. Some people, it will just automatically open it. Other people, it may prompt you, is this how you want to say, what you want to open it with, Microsoft Word, or it may give you the option to save the file somewhere. So whatever you want to do there, but I'm going to click Open, and then it's going to open up that resume for me in MS Word. I'm going to click Enable Editing so I can see it in a one-page view there. Okay, and so then this is just basically what it does. It's populating my resume based on the information that I've already input into Digital Measures. So just to give you kind of an idea of what the resume would look like. And as you can see, there's some areas where I have quite a bit of entries, and I may decide that I want to go back and just edit some of these things out, because maybe I don't want to show every single Digital Measures training that I've provided. And so that's fine. You can definitely do those things. You can make those edits, okay? All right, so I kind of started with the big picture of the resume because I wanted you to kind of see how the data that you put in can actually help you populate not only the reports that we need for PNWU to support accreditation and COM program goals, but also for yourself. So now I'm going to go back to the Manager Activities main menu. And then we're going to kind of go through, first just talk about why it's important for PNWU staff and faculty to record their activities in Digital Measures. So in Digital Measures, the reason that we decided to buy this system and build it to support our mission and vision is because we have COM goals and we have accreditation core theme indicators that we are trying to meet that are in support of our mission and our vision. And so there are specific ones actually that are related to service, scholarly activity, and teaching. And so this gives us the ability, this system gives us the ability to track how we're doing in meeting our COM program goals and objectives and our core theme indicators in those areas of teaching and scholarship and service. And so it's very important that we have as many staff as possible and faculty enter their data in here each year. So what we're asking is that by July 31st of each year, that you enter any of the scholarly activity and service activities that you may have participated in for the previous academic year, so the one that just ended, June 30th. So that then we can pull reports and show how well we're doing at meeting our accreditation standards. And so with that in mind, let's kind of get started on reviewing, and we'll start by reviewing the service screens. So within the service section, you have 3 screens: extracurricular service activities, which is really community service, PNWU committee and university service, and professional membership/service. And so these 3 screens is where you're going to they're the ones you'll probably populate the most. So let's take a look first at extracurricular service activities. So if we open that up, you'll see there's some instructions here. So you're going to create a record for each extracurricular service activity that you've participated in. If this is an activity that you participate in each year, leave the end date fields blank to show that you're still involved in that activity. Digital measures will automatically put your entries in descending date order for you. The records you create in the screen are used to populate your resume, your CV, and your faculty evaluation reports. The examples of extracurricular activities would include things like volunteering your time at Union Gospel Mission Medical Clinic, volunteering your time at Science Olympiad, volunteering your time to organize and or run a booth at the annual charity 5K fun run. Those are just some examples. I know there are many activities that you may be involved in within your community where you volunteer your time. So keep in mind that, as I said before, digital measures has 2 purposes. Number one, of course, we purchased this system so that we can use the activity data that you populate to show that we're meeting our mission, our vision, our core themes, and our COM program goals and objectives. But additionally, it can also help you to build your resume or your CV. And so because of that, when we enter activities, we ask the question of whether or not this is a PNWU related activity or not. And I'll show you that when I open up. I'm going to click actually I'll just open up one of the activities that I've already entered here. So by clicking edit, you can see an activity that I participated in over last year. And of course, when you scroll down, you'll see there is a field here that says, is your participation in this activity related to your job at PNWU? So if this is an activity that is something that you're doing on behalf of PNWU, you're representing PNWU, then answer yes to this question. And then the activities that you have answered yes to, those are the ones that we count towards meeting our mission, vision, accreditation, program goals, and COM program goals and objectives. If you answered no, then that means that this activity is something that you're doing on a personal nature. It's not a part of your role at PNWU, but maybe it's something that you really enjoy doing. It could be, for instance, one of the activities that I haven't added for myself yet is volunteering for Habitat for Humanity. Well, that's not really a part of my role at PNWU, but it is something that I enjoy doing, and so I may want to show that on my resume, and that's why you want to go ahead and add it here. If you're going to use this system to populate a resume, you're going to want to show things that are related to your job at PNWU and some things that maybe aren't, and that's okay. By answering this question, yes or no, then we have the ability to filter out the things that don't belong in our calculations when we're looking at how many service hours or how many service activities are our PNWU staff doing on behalf of PNWU. So that's kind of how we do that. I'm going to go back here, and we're going to go back to the main menu so I can show you the next service screen. Okay, so PNWU committee university service. So when I open this up, most of you, any of you that are involved in any PNWU committees that take roll and have a charter, have goals and objectives, those committee memberships will be pre-populated for you this year. What that means is that right now, so for instance, I'm a member of the Board of Academic Affairs, so all of the committee chairs are required to take roll, and every year at the end of the year, then they send us their attendance for each committee so that we can then upload the data into digital measures. For this year, we did that. So all of your committees should already be, that data should already be uploaded. But what you're going to want to do is to take a look at, so you're going to want to open up each of those activities by clicking on the edit button, and I'm going to do that now so I can show you what that looks like. So originally, this first number here, number of hours spent this academic year in committee meetings, this number was populated for me. That was the number that the committee chair submitted as my attendance hours. The second number I populated. So I clicked edit, I went in and I added an additional 2 hours that I spent in service to this committee. And that usually that means, reading meeting minutes, or maybe reading a document that we've been asked to review prior to the meeting. And you're just estimating how many extra hours do you think you spent outside of that committee meeting doing work for that committee. And so you just put in that number here, whatever that is. And then the other thing is that if this is a committee that you're going to continue to be a member of in the next year, go ahead and delete the end date that may already be populated there. And so if there's a month, you can just go in and select the blank to get rid of the month that was originally there. And then you can just delete the date, highlight and delete the year, and then click Save and Return. And that will update your record for you. Now, for instance, in these two, I think I've already edited my, I didn't here. So in this one, I edited my end date, but I didn't put in my hours. And so I'm going to add an additional 8 hours. So I'm estimating that I spent about 1 hour for each committee hour preparing for that committee. And so that's why I added an additional 8 hours. And then I just click Save and Return. Okay. And then the rest of these, I know that I haven't actually, well, actually I may have. You want to just go into each one, clicking the edit, and then just estimate how many hours that you may have spent additionally. And I know I haven't actually done anything outside of that committee, so I'm just going to put in a 0 so that I know that I did review that. And for this particular committee, I'm actually just a guest. I'm not a member, and so I'm going to leave this end date here because it's not a committee that I am actually an official member of. And I'll do the same thing with the next one. I'm going to put in 0 hours and then just Save and Return, because again, in these 3 committees, I'm just a guest. That's my role, is guest. So I'm just going to do that again. And then for website committee, I am still a member of that one, so I can blank that month out just by selecting the blank area and then click delete for the month or the day and the year. And I did approximate some time for that one, and I'll click Save and Return. Okay, and so that's what you would do here. Additionally, though, there are other types of university service that you may have participated in that won't be pre-populated for you. So I gave you some examples of what those might be. So for instance, if you participated in the COMS student admissions interviews, some of the faculty we were able to collect the hours that you spent in the interviews. Some of the staff we were not. So if you did, you just want to see, is that activity already listed here? If it's not, then you're just going to click Add a New Item. And then here where it says Committee University Service Activity Name, in the pull down you can see COM Admissions Interview. So you would just choose that activity and then your role, and if you don't see interviewer, then you could click Other and type in interviewer, and then the number of hours that you spent, and I know that I did this, I think it was an 8-hour day. And I did spend an additional like 2 hours reading all the preparatory documents, because that was the very first time I'd ever participated in the comm admissions interview process. And so, and then I'll just put the academic year as the beginning. And I'm going to go ahead and put the end date, because I probably will not be a part of this next year while I'm in school, so I'm just going to save that activity. So some other examples of activities that you might need to add and are in the pull-down menu is like Student Club Advisor, or PNWU Search Committee, so faculty and staff employment, which would include interviewing. So if you're interviewing people for possible positions at PNWU, and what I would do is if you've been involved in multiple search committees or multiple interviews, you know, just kind of estimate the total number of hours that you spent through the year for any of those all together into one activity. This academic department meeting, so if you're a member of an academic department and you've attended department meetings, I would just add up all the hours that you think you spent for the year and put it into one activity. Administrative department meetings, the same thing. So if you belong to administrative department, such as IT or enrollment services or something like that, go ahead and add up your hours that you've spent in department meetings throughout the year. Comm academic advising, if you're a faculty member and you advise students, just estimate how many hours you think you spent throughout the academic year advising. But additionally, if it's not in the list, you can still choose in the option at the very bottom, Other, and then you can type in the name of what that group is, and again, you have that option with the actual, you know, the name of the activity and then also the role. You can also choose Other if you don't see it in the list, and then type in that role, and then go ahead and just put in the dates and the number of hours that you participated in that activity. Okay, so that gives you an explanation of committee service. So let's go back to the main menu and take a look at the third service screen. That would be professional memberships. So if you click on professional memberships, some examples of this would be membership, you know, a member of the AAOA, member of Rotary, member of the Washington Academy of Family Physicians. For me, Association for Institutional Research and the Pacific Northwest Association for Institutional Research. Those are two professional organizations that I am a member of and that serve my role here at PNWU. You may also be a member of something that is not necessary for your role at PNWU, and it's okay for you to add that here. When I click into one of these activities, you can see it asks that same type of question as in the committee service screen. It asks, is your membership in this organization necessary for your job at PNWU? So if you answer yes, then this activity, the hours that you report in this activity, gets used to calculate our, you know, mission, vision, program goals, and core theme numbers. But if you answer no, then really you're just entering that activity so that you can add it to your CV, and it's not a part of our PNWU accreditation pieces. So, but you do have the ability to have both types of activities in here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Return to Main Menu. Now, one of the things that I've been asked a lot by some of the faculty, at least I know for sure, is sometimes you might be a editor or a reviewer for a professional organization. Maybe you're reviewing an article, but you're not necessarily a member of that organization. Maybe you're a content expert, and so they've asked you to do some review work. In that case, I would consider that definitely professional membership / service, which is why we're actually going to have this screen name is going to change to say professional membership / service. I've got a work order into Digital Measures right now to make that happen, so that you can show also any activities that you may be doing in service of a professional organization, but you're not actually a member of. And so what you would do then is you would click Add New, And there's actually a role here, there's several roles for editor and as well as reviewer of different types of journals, textbooks, whatnot. So you would just type in the organization, the journal, company's name or whatever, and your role, and then the number of hours that you spent, and if it's something that it is on behalf of PNWU because or if it's not, then that's totally up to you, but you can choose that yes or no there, and then whether or not that journal is a national, international, that's the audience question there. And then what type of organization is this an educational organization? Does it service mainly education or health or something else? So you need to do that as well. But anyway, so you do have the ability to add those types of roles into that professional service as well. Okay, so let's review now the scholarship research dissemination screens. For many of you, especially if you're a staff member, you probably aren't involved in grants, and you probably are not involved in research. You may or may not be involved, have some work in publications or presentations, and probably for sure everyone has professional development activities. So one thing that I want to say before we get into these screens is that these screens operate a little differently than the rest of the screens, in that what we do in these screens have the ability to record multiple people in them, as well as they span over academic years, meaning if you're working on a research project, you may start it in 2012. That research project may not end until 2020. And so in these screens, you capture your current status, and you just keep updating that. So, we should start this screen, like if I started a research project, just planning one, I would actually create a research activity in the system, and I would show in the status that I'm in the planning stage. And then every so often I would go into Digital Measures and update my status to show where I'm currently at in that status, whether I'm, now I'm in progress or I'm enrolling participants or whatever I'm doing. So in Digital Measures, you want to just go in and constantly update where you are with your research projects or grant projects. And same with publications and presentations. So I'm not going to get into the how do you step-by-step fill out all of these screens. I'm just giving you this overall, how, what these screens do and how they function. And then there are additional screen-by-screen tutorials that I'm going to be posting on the Digital Measures webpage that you'll be able to see very soon. So I'm hoping to have that all done by the end of today. And so then you'll be able to go out there on that webpage, and if you have a specific screen that you need a little more information on how to fill that out, then you can click on that tutorial to see the information on that one screen. So, but most of them are pretty self-explanatory, and so I'm hoping that you won't need to utilize that too much. But you can also call me too if you have questions. So anyway, so we're going to go through, so I kind of just talked about scholarship screens, but let's get into the nitty-gritty of those. So we're going to start by looking at let's start by looking at grants. So I'm just going to open up grants, and I give an explanation of how the grants work. So grant projects should be entered by the lead PNWU person involved in the grant. This may or may not be the PI for the grant. It is best if there are multiple PNWU people involved in the grant project to discuss who will be responsible for entering and tracking the project data in Digital Measures with the entire group of PNWU members. Once the lead person enters the grant information and all the project participants, all PNWU staff and our faculty listed will be able to view the grant project details in their own grant screen within Digital Measures. They will not, however, have the ability to change the information in the grant project. That can only be done by the person that originally entered the project into Digital Measures. If you see a discrepancy in the grant data, contact the lead grant person for the grant to have it corrected. Digital Measures will automatically put your grant entries in descending date order for you. the records you create in this screen are used to populate your resume, your CV, and your faculty evaluation reports. So I put in a test grant project to show you kind of what that looks like. So if I click on edit, then you can see the different fields within this grant screen. And what's different from some of the other screens in Digital Measures is that it gives you the ability to add multiple investigators. So if a grant project may have, 2 to 10 or more people that help to pull all that grant information together, help to do the writing and investigating and whatnot. And so you want to list all of those people here. And how you do that is down here at the bottom, you see it says add another investigator. So you have the ability to add up to 10 at a time. So you can actually add 20, 30, 40, but it'll give you up to 10 boxes at a time. And so you just choose how many investigators do you need, and then choose that number, and it's going to add that number of boxes. So if I click 2 to add 2 more, and I click the add button, now it's given me 2 additional investigator boxes here. So I have the ability to add additional people. And if I click on this very first text box, it's actually a drop down, and this contains a list of all of the PNWU staff and faculty that are in Digital Measures system. So if you need to add someone that is a PNWU staff or faculty, then you choose their name from this list, which is alphabetical. If it is someone outside of PNWU, or it could even be a PNWU person, if they're below a 0.2 FTE, they're not going to be on this list. So you can add them here. So if you look at the very top of this section, you see some column headings: first name, middle name, last name. So you can put in their first and last name, for instance, like I did here, test student, and then you put in their role, and then answer this question: is this a PNWU student or alum? And that's just because we're trying to track, how many students do we have involved in these different projects that we're working side by side with faculty. But anyway, so one of the things that you're going to see is that, so for instance, up here I added a test faculty member because I want to show you how this is going to look on their screen when they log in. But I'm going to show you, so right now, so I'm just going to delete, I can delete these extra boxes, which I don't really need, by clicking on that little red X. And it asks me, am I sure I want to do that? Say yes. Okay, so I deleted the first one. Now I can delete the second one that I added. Click OK. So I'm back down to the 3 people that I have in this test project. So I had this test faculty member, and then I have this test student. So test students, they don't have a Digital Measures login, so they're never going to be able to log in and see their activities in here that they're involved in. We actually collect PNWU student data, at least the current 4 classes of students, in eValue, and so they will report their activity in a project in eValue as well, because they need to be able to populate their MSPE letters and things, and so they have a different way, but we pull that data actually additionally to help us also support our service and activity information. And so we actually combine students, staff, and faculty all together to help us support our accreditation and our core theme COM program goals and objectives numbers. So anyway, but for the other investigators that are listed in here that I choose from the drop down, they will now have the ability to view this project in their own screen. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm just going to cancel back out of here. And yes, I want to leave the page. It's asking me that because I'm not saving. And so, okay, so I'm going to log off as myself, and I'm going to log back in as that test faculty member. So, hopefully I entered the right one. Okay, and so now when I go into grants as that test faculty member, here is that project that I put in my own screen, and I listed that test faculty member. So the test faculty member can see all of the data that I listed in that screen, but the test faculty member does not have the ability to edit or delete any of that data. So that's the difference. So what happens is the lead person in a grant or a research project or a publication or a presentation, they are the ones responsible for entering all the data and all the people. And then the people that they list that are on that drop down, that are PNWU people, will be able to see those activities in their screens. They just don't have the ability to delete or edit the information. The thing is that that's a really good feature, because what it means is that then we make sure that our data integrity stays intact. So what happened like last year when we did collected data using the workbooks is that, you know, people might enter a project a little differently. Each person, it may be the same project, they're all involved in it, but they, you know, even just slight differences in how they enter the title, you know, maybe using abbreviations versus someone who doesn't, or, you know, maybe they list the temporary title that they had before they changed it to the real title. Things like that make it very difficult for us to be able to aggregate all that information together and make sure that you know, we're counting only one project and not two separate projects, not realizing that it actually is just the same project. And so having this ability to, you know, control that by having only the lead person add those projects in makes a great difference for us and how we are able to pull that data back out. So I'm going to log back in as myself, and then we're going to go through. So with that in mind, going back to the main menu, I'm not going to go through the research screen because it's very similar to the grant screen. It's the same purpose and same process. You know, you're adding all the people that you have involved in that research grant, and you're just going through and answering the questions that are required at least. But I am going to click on publications because I want to show you another feature. So again, publications also operates the same as the grants and the research screen, except that it has one extra functionality, and that is that you have the ability to import items. So you can click on import items, and if you have a Bib Text file, which would be a file that contains all of your citation information, all of the fields related to your publication, you can actually upload, you can browse on your computer and find that file and then upload that information into Digital Measures, and it will put the fields of data in the appropriate fields for you. And then the other one is if you are published on PubMed, you can actually import your data from the PubMed publication. So I'm going to do that so I can show you what that looks like. So first, you have the ability to add multiple types of criteria, search criteria, to find your publications in PubMed. So as you can see, this has a drop down, and so I could change this if I wanted to search instead of by author. Maybe I want to search by the publication or the journal name, for instance. Then I can choose journal name, and then I would type in here, and I would delete this, and I would type in the actual journal name to change that. Let's see, I'm going to go back. Where did my author go? There we go. There it is. Okay. I also have the ability to add multiple search criteria. So if I click on the plus sign, see, it'll keep adding multiple search criteria rows. So if you have a lot of publications and you really just want to narrow it down to find those specific ones, you can change any of these so that you have different types of searching that it's looking for. Maybe it's that you're going to search by the journal name and the author, and maybe the date of the publication, which might be very helpful. And you have the ability as well to remove these boxes by clicking on the minus button to remove those. So automatically it populates this search, the first search box, by your last name and first initial. You have the ability as well to delete that if you publish maybe by a previous married name or maiden name, or maybe you spelled your name slightly differently. So you can change that to be whatever you need to. I'm going to go back and change it or add in what I had before, and I'm going to click continue to start that search. So it takes a couple of seconds for it to populate, and then it will bring up several records that found that last name that I had in the search criteria. So then to select any of these, and it could be that there are many that do not belong to you, so you have to go through the list, and like I said, this is a very long list, and so if I had PubMed publications, which I don't, then I may want to definitely add those additional search criteria to get this list down to where it's easier for me to review. But I'm just going to show you how to import one. So whichever of the articles that show up, whatever of those publications that belong to you, you just click the text box for those that belong to you. And this one doesn't, but I'm just going to show you how to do the import, and then I'll delete this. So you just click that checkbox, and like I said, you can click multiple checkboxes if you need to, and to import everything at once. And click the continue button, and it takes it a minute, and it's going to review that, and then it's going to ask you, it gives you kind of a double check. Please ensure all looks good, and then click continue. So what it's telling you here in the second box is, hey, these people aren't in our digital measure systems. They're not users. Is this incorrect? Well, no, we're just going to add them. We're not going to add them as system users, but we're going to add their names into our publication. So you're just going to click continue. And it's just giving you a review of all the fields that are going to be uploaded. Then you click the import button and then click OK. It has several double checks before you get to the import. So now it's imported it for me. Here's the name of the publication. I can click on the edit button, and I can open that up and see the data that was entered for me in that import process. And so here are those people that were listed as authors that aren't PNWU people. So it lists them in this different, in these other first, middle, and last name fields. Okay, and then you would just go in again if you need to change their, you would want to answer this question, and then is their role maybe different? Probably not. PubMed should import them correctly. Some of the other things that you may want to do, you have the ability to do, PubMed should list these people in the appropriate order of authorship. But you do have, as first author, second author, third author, but you do have the ability to move the boxes of author up and down. So for instance, if this person was actually the first author, I can click on that up arrow and it will move that person. Now it moved that person to the second author position, and it moved me down. It moved this person to the first author position, and it moved me down to the second. And then you can go back. You can do that with the down arrow as well to move it back. So whatever you need to do there, and then you would just click the save button to save any changes that you make. Oh, you know what? It's got a couple of, there we go. So when you do the import, it's automatically going to import all of the citation fields, but we may have some additional fields that we've added on behalf of PNWU. So field of study is a PNWU question, and the reason that we're asking that is to support the COM program goals and objectives. And so it's a required field, so you will need to make sure that you answer that field in order to save it. So then I just answered it, and then I click save and return. Oh, there's another one somewhere. Oh, this one, project start date. So we're also asking for a project start date. So I'm going to say March 2010. I'm just making something up so I can save. There we go. Now it'll save it. Okay. So, and then again, if you need to delete it, what do? You just click that checkbox and click on the delete button. Yes, I'm sure that I want to delete it because that's actually not my publication. So that's kind of how the publications, and then of course you have the ability to add one on your own. If you don't have it published in PubMed, or you don't have a Bib Text File, then you can always click add a new item and then fill in the citation fields, the appropriate citation fields manually. Okay, so I'm going to click back to the main menu. All right, additionally, in the scholarship research and dissemination section, you also have presentations, and presentations work exactly the same as the grants and research and publications. Many times you may just have presentations that only you were involved in, and that's fine. You just put in that presentation. And then you may have some presentations where it was a group effort. Maybe you had 3 or 4 people, you went to a conference and 3 or 4 of you created a presentation that you presented to a professional organization. So whichever the case is, you have the ability to enter either your individual presentation or your group presentations. You'll just need to choose one person to be the lead person to put that presentation data in if it's a group one. Professional development activities. So this is any activity that you participate in that is for professional development purposes. You will have some information in your screens probably pre-populated for you. So for instance, if you attended any of the digital measures training tutorials that have been going on, then I enter a professional development activity for you, and so you'll see that on your side. Additionally, anytime you attend most PNWU training sessions of any kind, if there's a sign-in sheet, then I tried to get all that data entered for you. There may be some that I missed, but for instance, like the law room training that HR required, I've entered that data for you as well. Like here is one here. I'll just open that up so you can see what that looks like. So some of, like this one was imported for each individual person, and it gives how many hours. So that's the number of hours that they estimated that the law room software estimates that it takes to complete that activity. So that's the number of hours that you receive for that activity. And then your start date and your end date, which should be the same, will be the date that you completed that activity. So if you are a person that is providing professional development activity to a group of people at PNWU, my advice to you would be, number one, make sure you have a sign-in sheet so that you can have people sign into the activity when they attend it. And then once they've done that, and the activity is over, then you'll go into this screen, Professional Development Activities Attended. You'll click Add a New Item. You'll put in what type of activity this is and the title, and if it's a PNWU activity, then PNWU would be your sponsoring organization. And then for this one, type in the number of hours that this activity took. So if it was a 2-hour training, then put 2 here. And then you're going to add an attendee, the number of attendee boxes for every number of attendees there were. So, if you had 15 people that attended that activity, then you're going to have to choose, 10 and click add, and then choose another 4 to get the rest, or 5 or whatever. Anyway, and then you'll just put in their names through using the drop downs in each attendee box, so that then they will get credit for attending that activity. So that would be your responsibility. Whoever it is that's putting on that professional development activity should do that. For most people, it could be that maybe you attended a conference on your own, and so you'll just, you'll put in that one activity for yourself, and that's fine too. So you'll just choose conference attendance, put in the title of that conference, maybe it's Pacific Northwest Association of Research, and then any sponsoring, that should go there, the title of the conference, and then the sponsoring organization, where it's located, and the number of hours that you spend in that activity. And that's basically how you would enter an activity data for yourself or for a group. Okay, so the last, actually that is the last section, or the last screen for the scholarship section, and I think that basically gets us to, we talked a little bit about the resume, about how to pull that report. So a lot of the data that you put into the scholarship and service, actually all the data that you put into the scholarship and service screens help to populate your CV resume. Additionally, though, the screens that are in this CV resume section also help with that. So you can put in your awards and honors, your education, your license and certifications, your news media contributions, and your work history. All of these things as well help to populate your CV or resume. So if I just kind of click on work history, I want to show you what that looks like. So for each university that I attended, for each job that I've had over the last 10 years or at least 6 years here, I have an activity listed, or an organization listed, I should say. So if I click on, I can open one of these and just show you. So this was my job at Yakima Regional. So I've listed that information for that job. Okay, and then that's one activity. Now, I have two for PNWU because I decided to separate out. When I first started, I started as an executive administrative assistant, and then my role changed. So I actually listed that here. So how long was I an executive administrative assistant? So I put in the activity to show that, and then I put in another activity to show how long I've been in my role as an institutional effectiveness coordinator. So that you can do that if you want to separate them out by kind of your role. Some people may just want to show, I started at the organization at this point and this is my current title, and you're fine with that, even if you've kind of changed roles over the years or whatever. That's totally up to you, but I wanted to show you kind of the different ways that you can actually add those activities. Now, just keep in mind that when you separate them out like that, then it shows in your resume that way or your CV that way. If you just put them in as one combined unit, just your start to your end date, then it's going to show that way in your CV or your resume. Let's see. So let's go back to the main menu. Anyway, so you have the ability to add any of these activities that you need to. Additionally, you want to take a look at your demographic and employment information. All of the screens that are listed under that section are populated using the HR data system. And so you will have a view-only access to any of the data located in these screens. If you find an error in any of that data, then please contact HR to have them get it corrected for you. Mostly what you're going to see is in your yearly data, you should have an activity record for each new academic year that you are working at PNWU, and which will actually just start at the 2014-15. So you won't see any previous, even if you've worked in the past. We're just starting from when digital measures was implemented. So you'll be able to open that up and take a look at it. And for you, it'll say view instead of edit. But it will show you the data that is populated within that screen, which gives your supervisor name, your FTE, your department. If you have multiple departments that you work for, then it'll show both of those departments, and your job title. So I'll go back. The other screen that you may want to take a look at would be your personal contact information. This is just going to give basic information. Your first name, you have the ability to put in your preferred first name if you have a nickname that you'd rather go by. Your last name, your credentials, your email address, and your office location, phone, date of birth, gender. These items, again, like I said, are populated by the HR system, which it kind of reminds you of that up there. But there are a couple of fields that you can actually fill out. Preferred first name, I believe, alternate name that you might publish under, and your brief biography. You are able to actually put that data in. And then if you notice, I know right now we're all going through a lot of office changing. So if your office and location is not correct currently, don't worry. As soon as all of the moving is done, we will upload new updated information for your office locations. And so anyway, once that's done, you have the ability then to take a look and let me know if there needs to be further changes. Okay, so I'm going to click return to hit to the main menu again. And that's basically what we need you to do. That for this academic year that we're needing you to really concentrate on by July 1st, it's really just focused on the scholarship and the service screens. So these two sections we would just like you to go through. You definitely want to edit any committee hours and add those extra hours that you might have spent. Add your professional memberships, add any community service, add any additional university service, and then make sure that all your professional development activities are in there. And if they're not, then go ahead and add the additional ones. Any presentations you've been involved in, publications, grants, research. These are the things that we really need you to have done by July 31st. And then you also, throughout the year at any time, have the ability to populate the other screens related to your CV resume, so that you can then start pulling a custom resume or CV out for yourself from the system. But that is not a requirement, and it's not something that you have to meet, that we need you to have done by July 31st. That's something that you can do on your own at your leisure. Keep in mind that you do have the ability to log into the system at home, not just at work. So if you want to work on your CV and resume screens, at home, then you're more than welcome to do that. But that basically wraps up this tutorial and explanation for all these different screens. If you have any further questions, again, feel free to use the contact information that I have listed here for myself to get a hold of me. Even if I'm not in my office, this is the office number, this number forwards to my cell phone, so I will still, unless I'm in a meeting, have the ability to answer the phone for you, and if not, then I will get back to you if you just leave me a message. Also, you can just shoot me an email, and as quickly as I can, I will respond. And that should take care of this tutorial. Thank you for viewing, and again, like I said, please come back to this website to take a look at further training resources that will be available to you for each individual screen in case you have additional questions. All right, thanks, and have a good day.